Hello from ABA Tech Show 2018 in Chicago. I am Heidi Alexander.
Tim Baran.
Julie Tolek.
And we are on the road with Legal Talk Network. And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us on the road in the Windy City. So today we are talking about what is a digital marketing strategy and how do I get one? Both Tim and Julie just presented at this wonderful session. I'm going to ask you both, what was that session all about? What was the sort of the general theme?
So a couple of things. When Julie and I were talking about doing this session, we wanted it to appeal to both folks who want to go a little bit deep on marketing and starting with a strategy, and also to folks that just don't have the damn time to do marketing. And that's where Julie came in brilliantly.
So Tim talked more about the technical stuff with planning and numbers and analysis, and I talked more about when you need to get something done, how do you pick something and just get it done?
So just so we know that you're qualified to talk about this topic, can you both tell me a little bit about yourselves?
I work at Apple Store. No.
But I used to work at an Apple Store.
I didn't know that. That was really cool. Well, Julie, why don't you go first?
So after I worked for an Apple Store for a few years and I went to law school, I started a solo practice right out of law school called Think Pink Law and did my own marketing and was actually marketing myself while I was still in law school and didn't realize I was doing it. So most of what I've done has been organic, so I can speak to how to get it done organically and by doing things you already do every day.
I love Julie's focus and niche. It's something that we talk about all the time in the marketing agency that I work for, which is Good to Be Social. And I've been with Good to Be Social for about a year and a half. And before that, I worked in legal technology. I was the content and social media strategist for Rocket Matter, based in Florida. And before that, I was a librarian, a law librarian, for about 10 years.
So if you could say, let's see, the top one takeaway from your recent presentation, what would that be? What do you want people to walk away with?
Doing something with the tools that you have is better than doing nothing at all and thinking yourself into a hole.
Is it okay if I just go on for just a little bit about this? So just one takeaway, and it's a takeaway that I talked about during our presentation. And we talked a lot about strategy. Strategy can get you bogged down a little bit with goals and plans and analytics and all that kinds of stuff. But just do one thing. Create a half-an-hour webinar. You don't have to invite anyone to it. Use zoom.us to film the webinar. Post that onto Vimeo and onto YouTube. Split that up into 4 sections. Write about it on your blog. Link back to that one page that you created to host that embedded video. One piece of content now, just for half an hour, is reaping all kinds of rewards for you. And by the way, if you're really, really confused about what to talk about during that half an hour, think about the number one question your clients ask.
All right. Good tips. So I understand that part of your session was more of a hands-on, sort of workshop-y type of feel. What did you do with that?
Well, that was our goal. I don't know if it ended up being that way, but we wanted to do a workshop about client personas and to help people figure out who their target clients are. It turned into more of a discussion, I think, about general grassroots marketing as opposed to sitting there and filling out the profile that we thought we would.
Yeah, we did want to go through the sort of a workshop. I'd love for these things to be more workshop-y than anything else. And it ended up sort of organically being that because folks asked questions specifically about what Julie was doing, or if we talked about goals, or if we talked about identifying your target audience. It can go into real detail with buyer personas. But that's the one thing, before you do a plan, before you start any marketing, you should think about what your goals are. Increase revenue, get more leads, and how you go about doing that. identify your target audience. There are ways that you can do that, and then work towards your marketing plan, measuring and iterating.
Because if you don't know who your target audience is, you don't know what to do with your marketing or what kind of marketing to do.
So it sounds like you had a bunch of questions at the end of your session, which is great. It means the audience was engaged. Any of those questions stand out as something that you'd want to tell other people?
So one of the things that someone came up to me afterwards and asked, the majority of people that were in our session were solos to like about 5 attorney firms, because the majority of folks raised their hand when we asked them. So one attorney came up and said they have a 7 attorney firm, and they're trying to, and the one question he asked was really interesting. You'll appreciate this. He says, look, is it more important to market the law firm or market the lawyer? And we always say, people hire lawyers, they don't hire firms. And so you need to do both, right? So you need to have like a firm push. But the one takeaway from that, I said, is identify one practice area, start with that, go deep, including the attorney, make sure that the attorney is out there speaking, putting on webinars, making a name for himself or herself, and then learn the lessons from that, apply it to your other practice areas.
I agree with that.
All right. So any other tips that you have that came out of the session that you think would be worthwhile, sort of things that people could implement right away, kind of practical tips that people could?
I think the best tip is, I mean, you already kind of said this, but just to expand, to really think about the questions that your clients are asking you every day or the most often, because I often hear lawyers say, well, I don't know what to write about. I don't have anything to write about. And, so many, like all day we get bombarded with questions. So there's really a ton to write about if you think about it. And you don't have to write something on every question, but if you create a really valuable post or something, or video or webinar on, a few specific questions, then you'll reap the benefits for a long time, because people will still be searching for the answer to that question.
Absolutely. And you already have the topics, right? The topics are the questions that your clients ask you all the time. Or if you already have a website and you have analytics hooked up to it, it's the terms that people search for that pop up on 1 and 2 every week after week. Those are the topics that you write about. So to Julie's point, yes, just get started with that. You can get bogged down in the goals and in the objectives and identifying buyer personas and making a marketing plan and measuring analytics. Just get started with one thing. And it's a good exercise to go through all of those processes, because in addition to identifying like what your marketing will be like, you get to, it's almost like a little mini MBA. You get to figure out like what you should be doing. You learn a lot about yourself, a lot about your firm, and a lot about maybe this niche isn't the one I should be in,
I think another valuable question that we got from the audience is, if you're just starting out and you don't know what you like, or you don't know what your niche is going to be, how do you balance saying yes to everything with creating quality content about, certain topics versus other topics, and how do you pick and choose? And I think a good suggestion for that is, again, back to something is better than nothing. So pick the one that interests you the most, maybe out of the 5 topics that you're practicing, and start with that. And don't spend too much time on it, but see how it goes. Do a few social media things with it, and at least you'll have something up.
I saw the audience when you answered that like that, and everyone was just like, yes. That was a really great answer, because people really do get bogged down in trying to figure out what to do too much.
All right. Well, these are great tips, and I'm sorry not everyone could have attended your session. I'm sure there were many, many more wonderful tips. But before we close, I have one last question. If our listeners would like to follow up with you, how could they do so?
I'm online at thinkpinklaw.com or on Twitter at thinkpinklaw. Basically, if you Google Think Pink Law, you can find me at pretty much any social media.
You'll find her.
So you can contact me at tim@timbaran.com, or Twitter for sure. It's just Tim_Baran.
And if you were unable to attend the session, it is actually online on my Facebook page, so you'll be able to watch it.
Oh, that's right. You Facebook Live did. I'm a little scared, but...
We've reached the end of the road for today's episode.
That rhymed.
I want to thank our guests for joining us, Julie and Tim. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please find us and rate us in Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.